destined to have children. I just didn't understand what I was supposed to do, which was very interesting. For years, I tried to have children and was not able to. However, when I go back to my childhood, my mom says that I used to play that I would have 3 children and that one of them would be adopted. Well, I always thought that the one that was going to be adopted was going to be last. So I kept trying to have children. But as it worked out, I was not able to conceive at the time, and I really wanted children with my husband, and so we decided that we would adopt. And it was the quickest adoption on record, I think, because we had Taryn in 2 months. And 2 months after we had Taryn, I found out I was pregnant with him.
I had a very normal childhood. Grew up with 2 brothers and my mom and dad. We're a big family, into a lot of sports and very family oriented.
All growing up, I had the idea that I would like to adopt. I basically felt that there were enough children in the world that didn't have parents that loved them. Why should you create your own when there's children out there that don't have family?
I'm married for 14 years, almost 15.
Once you get married, you realize that that is a very important commitment that one makes to their spouse, and that one has to take their wants and needs into account. We talked about it, and we decided that that we would try a birth child. We tried for a little bit, and then we sought medical assistance. We had a couple of procedures, and after the 3rd medical procedure, we decided to put it in God's hands. Before that procedure, we filled out an adoption application to an agency. And we looked up into the sky and we said, okay, God, it's in your hands. So either this procedure is going to take, or if it doesn't, obviously we're supposed to adopt. And the 3rd procedure didn't take, and we took that as a sign that we were meant to adopt.
We tried to have children and we couldn't. We went through an in vitro fertilization process several times. It didn't take. So we were thinking more and more about we should just adopt. Even though we're going through the IVF process, that was still in the back of our minds. But we didn't do it simultaneously because they tell you really shouldn't. If you want to adopt, you adopt. You don't do both. It wouldn't be fair to the process.
This alone, once one decides to adopt, there are many, many, many decisions that need to be made. The first one being, do you want to go domestic or international? After much discussion, we decided to go international. And then it came down to choosing an agency. A lot of research involved in choosing an agency. The process of international adoption is basically split into 3 steps. The first step is the home study. Basically, someone comes in and does a study of your home and signs off on the fact that they believe that you will be suitable parents and that your home is in an environment where a child would do well and flourish. Step 2 for international adoption is getting immigration, the United States Department of State, to approve you for immigration. So that process apparently was only supposed to take 6 to 8 weeks, and it took 6 months. The final step in international adoption is you put together a file called a dossier, and that is like 30 documents all put together. It has your home study, it has the immigration approval, and it has all the documents that the foreign government will need.
In the beginning of our marriage, we had fertility issues, and we talked to several doctors and went that route. And in the meantime, since we didn't want to wait until we were older, we started an adoption process.
The adoption, I had been to numerous doctors, had been through different fertility treatments, and actually had conceived twice, but had 2 miscarriages. And it was after the 2 miscarriages that we decided that what did we really want? We wanted the child. You know, if we couldn't have one of our own, then we would adopt a child, which was never anything that either one of us didn't think was okay. So that was the good news. Both of us felt that there were many children in the world that could use a good home, and we were very excited about adopting. So we went to a couple of seminars and found out that we could do something called an open adoption, then put an ad in the newspaper and a special phone in our house, so that anyone who called from the ad in the paper would only be on that phone. And we had the ad in the paper for 2 months, and we got 5 phone calls.
When we decided to do the adoption, and you had to contemplate, whether or not as a couple you could handle it, if you didn't want to have the process of adoption hinder your marriage. We went to Maine, and we sat on a cliff over a lake, and we wrote what we wanted to say in the ad in the newspaper. And we talked to a couple lawyers. We decided to go with one lawyer that specialized in adoption, and we were very lucky.
One of the pros that why we chose international adoption is because it was very consistent. The time period in which one would adopt a child would be much more consistent and dependable, that time span. When one goes domestic, often enough what happens is you wait for someone who is pregnant to choose you. Because we are somewhat older, the potential of waiting a very long time for a birth mother to actually choose us seemed like it would be long. So we chose international adoption. We were told a year, maybe a year, 2 months. And I want to say that we are easily 3 or 4 years into this process. We've gone through our home study. We have had approval by the United States government to bring a child into the country. And we have submitted our dossier to the other government. And we're awaiting an invitation to go to the other country to meet a child.